The ship pushed deeper into the ice. The ice pressed back. Movement ended completely. The year is 1914, and the world feels wide and calm. The last blank spaces on the map still called to bold explorers. The Antarctic stands among them like a distant dream of ice and silence. Ernest Shackleton watches this moment with quiet purpose. He feels the pull of a challenge that few dare to accept. He believes the frozen continent will reveal the true measure of courage. The Endurance waits in the harbor with a patient stillness. Her wooden frame shines under clear morning light. Ropes creak in a slow rhythm as the ship shifts with the tide. Crew members walk across the deck with steady steps and warm voices. They smile at one another with the excitement of men ready for a great task. Each has chosen this expedition with pride and hope. They seek purpose, adventure, and honor. Crates of food and tools fill the deck in tall stacks. Canvas bags slide across wooden planks as the men load supplies. Sleds wait near the rail beside restless dogs with bright eyes. The cold air carries their barking across the harbor. Every movement shows months of planning and long nights of preparation. Shackleton checks each detail with calm focus. He studies lists, charts, and weather notes with steady hands. His voice remains even and reassuring. The men draw confidence from his quiet strength. The ship departs under soft golden light. Families wave from the pier as the Endurance pulls away. The sound of cheering fades into the open sea. Waves lift the bow in a gentle rhythm that comforts the crew. The air grows cooler as they move south. The men gather at the rail and watch the horizon widen. They talk about home, dreams, and the long road ahead. Laughter rises between them like small sparks in the cold wind. Days stretch into a calm routine. Seabirds glide above the mast with slow, sweeping wings. The ocean lies around them in deep shades of blue and gray. Nights settle in with silver moonlight spread across the water. The men scrub the deck, check the ropes, and care for the dogs. They share simple meals and warm stories. Life feels steady and bright on the open sea. Their journey seems blessed with good fortune. As the ship enters colder latitudes, the world changes. The air sharpens and grows thin against their faces. Sheets of ice drift toward the ship in soft, pale shapes. The men lean forward and study the frozen forms with awe. The ice glows in shades of white and blue under clean sunlight. It feels like they have crossed into a land untouched by time. The sound of the ship cutting through the water becomes softer and more distant. The crew falls into quiet reflection as the sea grows still. Shackleton stands near the bridge and watches the change. His coat moves in the rising wind as he studies the horizon. He notes the ice, the sky, and the shifting currents. His thoughts are steady but deep. He senses that the journey will soon reach harder ground. Yet he believes his men are ready for any trial. Their unity gives him strength. Their courage gives him hope. For now the world remains peaceful and wide. The frozen horizon stretches before them like a glowing promise. The men breathe in the calm and hold their excitement close. They do not yet feel the shadow waiting beyond the ice. They only feel the quiet thrill of adventure. The Endurance sails onward under calm morning light. She carries 30 men toward a destiny none can foresee. Life on the Endurance settles into a steady and warm rhythm. The men rise early with calm purpose. They move across the deck with relaxed steps and familiar smiles. The cold air touches their faces but feels less sharp each day. They have grown used to the sea and to one another. Their world has become a small wooden home that floats through widening silence. Meals bring comfort and laughter. The smell of hot porridge lifts their spirits. Metal cups clink as they sit close around the mess table. Stories from past voyages pass between them in gentle waves. Each tale adds warmth to the room. The men learn the humor and habits of their companions. Friendships form under the soft glow of lantern light. These moments help the long journey feel human and bright. Frank Hurley walks across the deck with his camera pressed to his chest. He studies the sky and the shifting light. He waits for the right moment to lift the lens. His photographs capture the courage and joy of the men. The crew often gathers around him with wide smiles. They pose with pride as he frames each scene. His images become a living record of hope and unity. His quiet work strengthens the spirit of the ship. Shackleton moves among the men with steady steps. He speaks in low tones that carry strength and assurance. He checks supplies and listens to concerns. He studies the dogs and inspects the sleds. His presence brings order to every corner of the ship. The men trust him without hesitation. His leadership feels natural and calm. Respect grows with each passing day. The dogs bring energy to the journey. Their barking rises in short bursts that break the cold silence. They pull at their chains with eager strength. Their bright eyes follow every movement on the deck. The men feed them with care and stroke their thick fur. The dogs respond with quick wagging tails. They sense the shifting mood of the crew. Their steady excitement keeps the ship alive with motion. Small tasks fill the long hours. Ropes are checked and tied with practiced hands. Canvas is patched as the wind whips across the deck. Sleds are repaired with care and patience. Every task holds meaning in this rising cold. The men understand that survival will depend on these details. They give each job the attention it deserves. The value of discipline grows stronger each day. When the sea lies calm, the men enjoy moments of play. They kick a small ball between them on the open deck. They race along the planks with loud cheers. Laughter rises into the clear air. These brief games brighten the cold surroundings. They remind everyone that joy can survive even in harsh places. The sound of their voices carries far across the water. Evenings bring quiet comfort. The light fades into soft blue dusk. The men drink hot tea that warms their hands. They talk about home and the path ahead. Their voices soften as the ship rocks in gentle waves. Lanterns glow against wooden walls. Shadows settle into peaceful shapes. The cold outside feels distant for a moment. Nights stretch long and calm. Stars shine above them with icy clarity. The sea darkens into deep shades of blue and black. The wind hums in low tones across the deck. The men sleep with steady breaths. The Endurance carries them south with patient strength. Each day builds on the last with quiet purpose. Bonds deepen as work continues. Trust becomes the shared foundation of the crew. Life on the Endurance feels warm despite the rising cold. They do not see the danger forming ahead, but the truth is already taking shape. Unity will become their lifeline when the ice begins to close in. The first signs of change appear in quiet and subtle ways. The air grows sharper and carries a thin, biting edge. The sea darkens into deeper shades of blue and gray. Small pieces of ice drift toward the bow and tap gently. The men pause to watch the pale shapes slide across water, their movement slow as the cold settles deeper into their bodies. The warm rhythm of life on the Endurance begins to shift. A faint unease settles beneath their steady routines and soft voices. Shackleton notices the change at once and without doubt. He studies the sky with focused eyes that miss nothing. He watches the drifting ice with calm and patient attention. He senses the season turning quietly against their bold hopes. He stands near the bridge and follows each sign with care. His face remains composed, though concern grows within him. He knows each mile south will demand more strength ahead. In the days that follow, the ice thickens and spreads. Small floes turn into wide sheets of white and silver. They scrape the hull with slow and heavy knocks. The sound travels through the wooden frame like muted thunder. The men gather at the rail and listen in silence. The world around them feels alive and restless with warning. They sense the ice beginning to take control around them. Work becomes harder in the rising cold each passing hour. Ropes stiffen under frost and resist the men's hands. Canvas turns rigid in sharp wind and cracks at edges. The men rub their hands together to keep feeling alive. The dogs grow uneasy as the ship slows in the pack. Their barking rises in short bursts, shaped by instinct. The men soothe them with calm voices and gentle touches. But the animals sense the shift more clearly than humans can. They feel the sea tightening its grip around the hull. Shackleton calls the officers into the narrow cabin one evening. Maps cover the table in clean and careful lines. A lantern swings above them in slow, repeating arcs. They discuss drift, pressure, and the shrinking open water. No one shows fear, though each voice carries quiet tension. Shackleton listens with steady focus and weighted patience. The responsibility of 30 lives presses firmly on him. He knows the pack ice will not wait or show mercy. Attempts to break through the ice begin with rising urgency. The engine roars with deep force that shakes the deck. The hull strains as the ship drives forward through resistance. Cracks race across the ice before closing behind them again. Each gain feels hopeful, yet fragile against the frozen world. The men hold their stations with clear resolve and discipline. The cold stings their faces as they work without pause. They feel the struggle between wood and ice in every shudder. Hours stretch into long days marked by slow, grinding motion. The pack ice thickens into a vast white barrier ahead. The ship slows with each attempt to carve a path. The ship groans under the mounting pressure of the floes. The men stand at the rail and watch rising ridges forming. Jagged lines cut across the surface like frozen waves shifting. Unease tightens in their chests, though no one speaks fear. Each man knows the sea is closing in around them now. Night brings deeper cold and sharp wind across the deck. The ship moans under the heavy pressure of the ice. The men lie awake and listen to the dark sounds. The comfort of the ship feels thinner with each passing hour. Every creak feels like a warning carried through wooden beams. Every shudder feels like a message rising from the frozen sea. Their warm nights fade into silence filled with restless thoughts. Shackleton walks the deck in dim and shifting light. His steps are slow and measured as he studies the ice. His coat snaps in the rising wind from the south.
He senses the path narrowing more quickly than expected. Yet his voice stays firm and steady when he speaks. Strength must begin with him and flow outward to others. Resolve must grow from his calm and unwavering presence. The crew draws courage from his quiet confidence each day. The early warnings have become clear and undeniable now. The pack ice is no longer a distant threat before them. It forms a tightening ring around the ship with purpose. The men feel the world growing colder and heavier together. The path ahead shrinks with each hour of deepening pressure. The sea turns still beneath a surface locked by frozen force. The Endurance moves forward with patient hope but fading ease. The ice draws closer, and the next stage of their trial begins.
The days grow quieter as the Endurance drifts in tightening ice. The wind softens for a time and brings a strange calm. Light settles across the pack with pale and gentle color. The men welcome the pause and breathe a little easier. They move with slow steps and cautious relief on the deck. But a faint tension lingers in every corner of the ship. The stillness feels unnatural and carries a hidden weight. Shackleton studies the horizon with steady and searching eyes. He knows calm weather can hide deeper danger ahead. Ice rests in silent fields that stretch beyond sight. Pressure ridges rise like frozen scars across the surface. He senses that the next shift may arrive without warning. He speaks little, but observes every sound and motion. The men feel his concern in his measured silence. Work continues with care beneath the quiet sky. Ropes are checked for frost damage and tightened with focus. Sleds are inspected for cracks formed in the cold. Hurley guards his camera gear against creeping moisture. The dogs rest but stay alert with bright and waiting eyes. Small tasks fill the hours and keep fear at a distance. The crew works with calm faces yet thoughtful minds. Even small sounds grow louder in the frozen stillness. Boots scrape on the deck with sharp and lonely echoes. A single knock from the hull feels like a message. The men pause and study the ice with cautious interest. They listen for signs of shifting pressure beneath the calm. The morning quiet feels like a held breath across the pack. The day drifts forward with slow and uneasy motion. Meals feel different under the soft and muted atmosphere. The men talk in lower tones and share short stories. Laughter comes but fades more quickly than before. Each man senses the cold world waiting beyond the walls. Hot tea warms their hands, but not their heavy thoughts. Even comfort feels fragile beneath the waiting silence. No one wants to disturb the delicate peace. Shackleton walks the deck during the fading afternoon light. His coat snaps lightly in the calm but rising wind. He reads the sky with care and practiced intuition. Thin clouds gather far to the south in stretched lines. He recognizes the pattern and knows what it means. The quiet is ending, and a shift is drawing near. He prepares himself for decisions he may soon face. Night arrives with slow and creeping darkness. Stars appear above the ice with sharp and icy clarity. The men sleep lightly beneath the soft creak of timber. The hull settles with long and gentle groans in the cold. Each sound feels important in the fragile quiet. Some men wake and lie still with open eyes.
They sense that change is waiting just beyond hearing. In the early hours, the temperature falls sharply. Frost gathers on every surface like thin silver dust. The dogs stir and release low, uncertain whines. The air feels tighter and sharper against the skin. Something unseen shifts across the frozen plains. The calm feels stretched thin like cracked glass. The men rise slowly and brace for what comes next. Shackleton feels the change before he hears it. His instincts sharpen in the cold and waiting dark. The ice is preparing to move with unforgiving force. The stillness was never safety, but only delay. He stands at the rail and watches faint ridges form. Pressure builds beneath the quiet surface of the pack. He knows the next stage of their struggle is near. Calm has given them rest, but not escape. The frozen world now gathers its strength. The men sense the turning point in the cold air. They look to Shackleton for steadiness and courage. He meets their eyes with firm resolve and calm breath. The storm behind the silence is ready to rise. Their trial will soon break through the fragile peace.
The first cracks come without warning. A sharp report echoes across the frozen pack. The men lift their heads at once. The sound is clean and hard like a rifle shot. It slices through the cold morning air. The dogs leap to their feet with raised ears. Shackleton steps onto the deck with quick, steady motion. He feels the change in the ice before he sees it. A long fracture races across the white field beside the ship. It stretches in a jagged line that glitters in the pale light. Another crack follows with deeper force. The ice shifts beneath the ship and lifts its hull. The deck tilts with slow, grinding motion. Loose gear slides across the planks. The men grab rails to steady themselves. The calm that held for days shatters in seconds. Pressure follows the cracks with crushing strength. Flows collide with deep and heavy tremors. The frozen plain rises and falls like a living force. The Endurance groans as the ice presses against her sides. The hull bends with sounds that tighten every breath. The men watch the growing ridges form around the ship. Walls of ice rise from the surface in sharp blue peaks. They glow beneath the cold sunlight with fierce beauty. Shackleton calls for all hands. His voice is firm and steady. The men rush to their stations without hesitation. They chip ice from the hull to ease the pressure. They swing axes in wide arcs that echo across the pack. Each blow sends shards of ice into the air. The work is cold and brutal. Frost gathers on beards and lashes. Breath clouds fill the space around their faces. The air hums with effort and fear. The ice answers their work with greater force. It pushes inward with crushing power. Deep thunder rolls beneath their boots. The ship jerks and rises as pressure builds. The deck jumps in sharp, shaking bursts. Men stumble and grab lines to stay upright. A loud, splintering roar rises from deep inside the hull. The crew freeze as they hear the timbers break. The ice has found the ship's weak point. The damage grows with each passing second. Shackleton moves with calm control. He orders supplies brought to the ice. Sleds, tents, food and cooking beer are hauled over the rail. The men form lines and pass equipment hand to hand. Their breath comes fast in the freezing air. They know the ship may not survive. Each man works without question. Their discipline holds even as fear grows. Hurley races to save his film and cameras. He climbs through the leaning ship with quick steps. He gathers plates and negatives from their cases. The ship groans around him, but he keeps moving. He knows these images hold the story of their trial. He carries them to the ice with tight and frozen hands. The men help him secure the precious gear. The pressure becomes relentless. The ice rises in tall, jagged peaks. It towers over the deck like a closing jaw. The ship tilts further as the pack grips her hull. A deep roar tears through the timbers. The deck plates lift beneath the men's boots. Shackleton orders everyone clear of the ship. The men retreat onto the ice and gather their gear. They watch with wide eyes as the Endurance bends under the crushing weight. The sun hangs low behind thin clouds. Its light spreads across the ice in pale gold. The scene looks unreal in its harsh beauty. The frozen world closes around the ship like a trap. The hull twists with slow and tortured motion. Snow drifts across the broken surface. A long shudder rises through the air. The Endurance fights, but the ice is stronger. Shackleton stands with the men on the cold plain. His face is calm, though the weight of loss presses hard. He looks at the ship that carried them so far south. He sees her struggle under the frozen force. He speaks with steady voice. He tells the men that their journey is not ended. He reminds them that spirit matters more than timber. The ice may crush the ship, but not their resolve. Night approaches with sharp and rising wind. The men build a small camp beside their supplies. They work with quiet and focused hands. The dogs huddle close for warmth. The ship moans in the dark behind them. The men listen with heavy hearts. They know the Endurance may not survive the night. Pressure roars once more across the frozen plain. The pack tightens around the ship with final force. The men stand and watch in silence. Their faces glow in the dim lantern light. The Endurance bends, breaks, and settles into the ice. The sound echoes through the cold like a long final breath. Their ship is dying. Their real battle has begun. The men wake to a world changed forever. The ship that carried them south now lies broken in the frozen plain. The Endurance has become a shattered shape trapped in towering ridges of ice. The morning light falls across her hull in pale and fragile color. Shackleton stands in silence as he studies the wreck. He feels the loss, but does not let it break his resolve. Survival now becomes their only path forward. The cold presses against them with sharp and heavy force. The men move slowly as they gather supplies from the ice. Their breath rises in thick white clouds. Frost clings to their clothing and grows heavier with each hour. The dogs bark in short bursts that cut through the quiet. The men work with stiff hands and aching arms. They haul food, sleds, tents, and tools across the uneven surface. Every step demands strength and control. The ice beneath them feels unstable and alive. Shackleton calls the men together for a brief council. His voice carries calm authority across the cold air. He tells them that their goal now is simple survival. They must reach land or open water before the pack crushes their hopes. The men listen with steady attention. They feel the weight of his words, but also the strength behind them. His confidence becomes their anchor. Their fear softens into determination. Days stretch into long and grueling routines. They build a small camp near the broken ship. Tents rise with careful hands. Snow walls are shaped to block the wind. The dogs curl into tight circles for warmth. The men eat simple meals in silence. They feel each calorie burn as the cold pulls strength from their bodies. but they push through tasks with relentless focus. Survival requires steady effort from dawn to dusk. Hurley continues to save what images he can. He selects plates and negatives with careful judgment. Many must be destroyed to save the rest. He holds each one to the faint light before deciding its fate. The men watch with respect as he protects the living memory of their trial. His work gives shape to their struggle. His images become reminders of courage and unity under crushing force. The ice shifts with deep and threatening motion. Cracks open in long, winding lines. Pressure ridges rise like frozen waves that twist the plain. The men feel the world moving beneath their feet. The sound becomes a constant reminder of danger. They sleep lightly through the cold nights. Each groan from the ice pulls them awake. Their camp feels fragile against the great frozen sea. Shackleton leads scouting parties across the drifting floes. They travel in careful lines and test each surface with long poles. The ice moans beneath them as they move. They search for a path toward open water, but the pack stretches endlessly in every direction. The frozen desert swallows all sense of distance. The men return with weary steps but steady hearts. They refuse to surrender hope. The cold grows sharper with each passing day. Snow falls in thin white sheets. Wind cuts across the plain with sudden fury. The men huddled together inside their tents. They share stories in low voices to push back the silence. They speak of home, family, and warm places far away. Their words carry comfort through the bitter night. Each story becomes a small piece of warmth. Food supplies become precious and carefully measured. They ration each meal with discipline and restraint. Hunger grows, but does not break their will. The dogs pull sleds with loyal strength. They become partners in the fight against freezing emptiness. The men care for them with quiet gratitude. Every creature in the camp carries part of the burden. Shackleton never allows despair to settle. He moves among the men with quiet purpose. His presence keeps fear from taking root. He reminds them that survival depends on unity and steady work. The men draw strength from his calm leadership. Their spirits rise with each encouraging word. They feel supported even as the cold world presses close. Nights stretch long and silent. Stars glow with icy brightness above the drifting pack. The men lie wrapped in thin layers of warmth. Their breaths fog the air inside the tents. They close their eyes and gather strength for the next day. They do not know how long the ice will hold them, but they face each sunrise with the same resolve. They will endure the frozen world until a path opens. Their fight has only begun, but their spirit remains unbroken. The long weeks on the drifting pack have carved deep lines of fatigue into every face. Yet a thin thread of hope begins to stir when the ice opens in narrow leads. Shackleton studies each new crack with sharp and patient eyes. He senses that the time has come to push toward open water. The men gather close as he explains the plan with steady voice. 3 small boats will carry them toward the distant coast. The journey will be brutal, but it is their only path forward. They break camp with slow and heavy hands. Sleds creak under the weight of supplies. The dogs bark in restless confusion as the men haul gear across the shifting floes. The sea heaves beneath the frozen surface with low rumbling tones. At last the boats touch open leads of dark water. The men lower them into the swell with careful effort. Cold wind cuts across their faces as they climb aboard. They grip the gunwales and steady themselves for the long fight ahead. The boats push forward through rising waves and drifting ice. Sea spray freezes on coats and beards. The men row with steady rhythm as their breath clouds the air. Shackleton moves from boat to boat with firm resolve. His calm presence steadies tired hands. The coastline remains far beyond sight. The water churns with unpredictable force. Still, they push onward with quiet determination. Days pass in a haze of cold, hunger, and aching motion. The men take turns rowing and resting. Their hands bleed from the frozen oars. Salt water seeps into every seam of their clothes. The boats rise and fall in relentless rhythm. Some men whisper prayers, others stare at the horizon with unblinking eyes. Food becomes scarce and precious. Sleep comes in short and fragile moments, yet their will to survive holds steady. At last they reach the desolate shore of Elephant Island. The men stumble onto the rocky beach with shaking legs. Some fall to their knees in silent relief. Others collapse into the cold stones with trembling breaths. Shackleton helps each man stand. His voice lifts their spirits with quiet strength. For the first time since the ship was crushed, they set foot on solid ground. The moment feels almost unreal beneath the gray and shifting sky. They build a rough camp with torn sails and bent poles. The wind screams across the narrow beach. The cold cuts deeper than before, but the ground beneath them brings new strength. The men gather around small fires that flicker in the gloom. Smoke rises in thin lines that vanish into the endless sky. They speak softly about the long drift and the breaking ship. They share warmth through stories and close company. Compassion grows deep between them. Every man feels bound to the next by shared struggle. But Shackleton knows Elephant Island cannot hold them for long. The beach offers no shelter from storms or hunger. Rescue will not come from the sea. They must seek help across hundreds of miles of open water. Shackleton selects a small crew to sail in the strongest of the boats. The James Caird becomes the heart of their hope. The men reinforce her sides with wood and canvas. They seal her seams with oil and frozen hands. Every detail may decide life or death. The chosen crew step forward with steady acceptance. Worsley, Crean, McNeish, McCarthy, and Vincent join Shackleton at the bow. The others watch in heavy silence. They fear for the men who will face the furious sea, yet they know the journey must be made. Shackleton speaks to the remaining crew with firm tone. He promises he will return. He tells them to hold fast and care for one another. His words flow with calm conviction. The men believe him without doubt. The James Caird is hauled toward the water. Waves crash against her frame in violent bursts. The wind howls with unbroken force. The men push with all remaining strength. The boat rises on a swell and begins its journey into the vast and merciless ocean. The beach falls silent as they watch her shrink into the gray horizon. Fear lingers, but something brighter remains. The men feel the weight of their captain's promise. They cling to hope as the sea carries him away. Life on Elephant Island becomes a test of endurance, shaped by cold and hunger. The men build shelters from overturned boats. They huddle close through long nights filled with icy wind. Compassion becomes their most precious resource. They share food, warmth, and strength. Each man carries the memory of Shackleton's calm voice. Each day they whisper the same belief. He will return. They will endure until he does.
The days on Elephant Island settle into a slow and heavy rhythm. The men live with cold that seeps through every layer. The wind scratches across their shelters with sharp and lonely tones. They feel the weight of waiting press deeper with each passing hour. Hope depends on the tiny boat now far beyond their sight. Shackleton has vanished into the wide gray ocean. His promise remains the only warmth they can hold. Snowdrifts build around the overturned boats that serve as their homes. The men sleep in tight rows with little room to move. Frost forms on beards and blankets. Breath hangs in the air like thin ghosts. Hunger gnaws at them with patient force. Every meal is a small portion of seal meat or penguin. They chew slowly to make each bite last. Silence often replaces speech. Energy must be saved for the long trial ahead. Still, they care for one another with deep compassion. They share blankets when the nights grow sharp. They rub frost from each other's faces. They help the weak stand when the cold becomes too much. The bond that formed on the drifting pack grows stronger in this bleak place. Loss remains close. Fear remains close. Yet kindness rises again and again like a small light in the dark. Some men grow sick as the days stretch on. Frostbite steals feeling from fingers and toes. Lips split from the cold wind. Skin cracks at the joints. The surgeon works with calm patience in the dim light. He cleans wounds and wraps frozen limbs. His hands shake from weakness, but he continues without pause. Each act becomes a quiet promise that no man will be abandoned. The landscape around them offers no comfort. The beach is a narrow strip of stone between steep cliffs and fierce sea. Waves crash in endless rhythm. The water is dark and heavy with winter cold. The sky often hangs low with thick clouds. Light comes through in pale bands that shift across the water. Time feels slow and shapeless. The men mark days by scratches on driftwood. Each scratch feels like a small victory.
They speak sometimes about the ship they lost. They remember the bright sails and the warm deck. They remember the night the ice took her down. Their voices soften when they speak of the Endurance. She carried their hopes into the far south. They feel her loss as if she were a living companion. Some men dream of the ship at night. They wake with damp faces and heavy breath. They also speak of Shackleton. His leadership has become a fire in their memory. They repeat his promise in low, firm voices. He said he would return. They believe him with unwavering faith. His strength lives inside their camp. It moves with every shared meal. It rises with every groan of the storm. It keeps fear from breaking the thin shell of their hope. Storms arrive with violent wind. The shelters shake under the force. Snow whips across the beach in wild spirals. The men stay pressed together inside the cramped space. They listen to the scream of the wind with quiet dread. Yet they survive each storm with steady discipline. They patch the shelters. They gather more stones. They press forward with slow and patient resolve. Loss becomes a constant presence. They lose strength. They lose warmth. They lose the sense of days passing. But they do not lose each other. The island tests every part of their endurance. Compassion becomes the anchor that keeps them from drifting into despair. Each man gives what little he can, a shared coat, a few extra bites of food, a silent hand on a shoulder. Weeks stretch into months. The ocean remains empty. The sky remains gray. Yet the men do not surrender. They sharpen their tools. They clean their shelters. They watch the horizon every morning. They repeat the same quiet words. Shackleton will return.
They will live to see his sails. They will endure the sorrow and cold until rescue breaks through the gray world around them.
The long waiting upon Elephant Island leaves deep marks upon the men. Each day adds weight to their memories. Each night shapes their thoughts in slow and somber lines. The island feels like a world far removed from everything they once knew. The sea, the cold, and the silence press against their minds. In these long hours, forgotten stories begin to rise from the shadows of their thoughts. Some men speak in low voices about the companions who did not reach this shore. They remember the faces lost along the frozen drift. They recall jokes shared during calm days on the ship. They recall quiet talks beside the dogs. Some memories come with warmth, others come with sharp pain. The men sit together near the small fires and let the stories settle between them. They speak of Blackborough, the young stowaway with quick eyes and hopeful steps. They remember the moment he appeared on the ship with shy courage. They remember Shackleton's stern words softening into reluctant acceptance. Now Blackborough lies in a cramped shelter with frost-bitten feet. Pain grips his body each night, yet he still offers a thin smile when the others speak to him. He has become a symbol of quiet strength in the face of loss. They speak of the dogs, too, the loyal companions who helped haul the sleds. The dogs faced hunger, cold, and crushing ice with unbroken spirit. Their absence now feels heavy in the camp. The men do not speak long about what became necessary to survive. Some memories are too sharp to revisit. But the dogs remain in their hearts as fierce and loyal partners in the frozen world. The men also speak of the ship. The Endurance was more than wood and sail. She was the center of their courage and purpose. They remember the warmth of her galley. They remember the glow of lantern light on polished brass. They remember the songs they sang during calm evenings. Now she lies crushed under tons of ice, far behind them. Her loss still echoes inside them like a long fading note. Some men dream of home with bittersweet clarity. They imagine warm rooms filled with gentle light. They imagine family waiting with steady hope. Yet they fear their stories may never reach those distant hearts. They fear they will be remembered only as names on a cold list. They fear that their struggle will vanish into the quiet world of forgotten things. But even in these somber thoughts, a fragile hope remains. They cling to Shackleton's promise with unwavering belief. He said he would return. His words live in every breath they take. His memory stands beside every man through the long nights. Hope becomes a thin yet powerful thread that ties them to the future. They rise each morning with slow and careful steps. They look to the horizon with the same steady gaze. They carry the forgotten stories within them. They honor them with quiet strength. They hold on because they must. And they wait for the moment when the sea will break open with the first sign of rescue.
The men gather on the narrow beach each morning and search the horizon with quiet hope. Weeks have passed since Shackleton sailed into the open sea, yet his promise remains alive within them. They hold that promise like a warm ember against the cold. The island tests them with long nights, thin rations, and bitter storms, but they endure each trial with steady hearts. They cling to the memory of his voice and the belief that he will return. The wind softens one gray morning. The sea lies calm under a pale sky. The men rise from their shelters and stretch stiff limbs. Their breath drifts in thin clouds around them. They gather for another day of waiting.
Then a distant sound breaks the silence. It comes soft at first, faint as a whisper. The men freeze and turn toward the open water. The sound grows clearer. It is the deep, steady beat of an engine. They climb the rocks with shaking hands. Eyes search the horizon with desperate focus. A small shape appears through the haze. Smoke trails behind it in a thin, dark line. The men stare in disbelief. The shape grows larger as it cuts across the water. Hope rises with each passing second. Then a voice carries across the wind. Shackleton calls to them from the deck of the rescue ship. His voice is strong and bright. His promise has been kept. Joy breaks across the beach like a sudden warm light. Some men shout, some fall to their knees, others cover their faces with trembling hands. Shackleton steps ashore with calm and grateful eyes. He moves among them with steady pace. He counts each man. His voice speaks one simple truth. Not one life has been lost. The men feel the weight of the long months lift from their hearts. They gather close around their leader with deep relief. The rescue unfolds with careful speed. Supplies are brought ashore. Weak men are lifted with supporting arms. The group boards the vessel in quiet lines. The island that held their sorrow now lies behind them. The wind carries the sound of waves across the rocks. The men look back one last time. They leave behind the cold shelters, the storms, and the long waiting. They carry forward the memory of survival and unity. As the ship heads north, the men rest for the first time in many months. They lie in warm cabins and listen to the gentle roll of the ocean. Some sleep without stirring. Others stare at the ceiling with soft disbelief. The ordeal on the ice begins to fade into a distant echo, yet its lessons remain deep within them. They have endured crushing ice, the drifting pack, the hunger, and the long isolation. They have learned the strength of hope and the power of compassion. Shackleton stands on deck and watches the horizon with thoughtful eyes. He knows the world will hear their story in time, but he also knows the full truth lives only inside the hearts of the men who survived. Their courage, loyalty, and quiet endurance have shaped a legacy that will not fade. The ice took their ship, but it did not take their spirit. They return home carrying a story of unity and resolve. The sun sinks behind the clouds as the ship sails toward warmer seas. The men gather together and speak in low voices. They share memories and soft laughter. They feel life returning with each steady breath. Above them, the sky glows with gentle light. The long journey is over. The promise has been kept, and the legacy of their endurance will live for generations to come.